She ran, barefoot, shirt soaked in something thicker than water. The baby monitor still buzzed in her hand. She didn't scream. Not yet. Not until she knew what she'd just seen was real. But the red smeared across the nursery wall said enough. No sound. No crying. Only the soft whir of the ceiling fan spinning above the empty crib. Alina stepped inside, her heart punching her chest like it wanted out. The window was still open. There was no broken glass. No forced entry, only a breeze, and the faintest smell of tobacco. Her knees buckled. She dropped to the floor and stared at the blanket crumpled in the corner. The blue one, with the white bears. That's when the monitor buzzed again. But this time, the feed wasn't from the nursery. It was from somewhere else, a different camera, and someone had connected to it, remotely. She watched. A man, standing in a dark hallway, carrying the same blanket, her baby's blanket. And then, the man turned to the camera, smiled, and whispered something. It sounded like, "Don't be late, Alina." 6 hours earlier, Alina had barely slept in 3 weeks. Her newborn Danny was only 2 months old, colicky, sensitive to noise, and allergic to practically everything. Her husband Ryan had left 2 weeks ago. No explanation, just a text. "I need time, don't look for me." She had looked and found nothing. No credit card usage, no phone pings, no family, as if he'd vanished or never existed. But that day something strange happened. The doorbell rang, nobody was there, but on the welcome mat, a pacifier. Danny's, the one they lost in the hospital the night he was born. Alina called her sister Mia. "It's him," she whispered. "He came back." But Mia didn't believe it. "Maybe you dropped it earlier. You're exhausted, Al." Exhausted. Didn't begin to cover it. That night, after putting Danny to sleep, Alina sat on the couch with the monitor in hand. She dozed off for maybe 20 minutes. That was enough time. By the time she woke up, the feed was black. Then it returned. But Danny wasn't in his crib, and the blue blanket was missing. Now, the police didn't come fast. It was a possible domestic dispute. They didn't treat it as urgent. Alina knew better. She watched the video again. The man's smile, the hallway, the whispered threat. But now, something was off. She zoomed in on the man's face. He looked familiar, not Ryan. Older, grayer. But the eyes, the cheekbones. He looked like her father. But her father had died when she was 9, hadn't he? She ran to her closet, digging through an old photo box she hadn't opened in years. There, the old family picture from a camping trip. Her mother, her father, and her, 7 years old, holding a stick like a sword. Then she saw it, behind them, a cabin, old wooden with a half-broken window, exactly like the hallway in the video feed. That's when she realized, whoever took Danny wanted her to remember that place, wanted her to come, wanted her alone. 3 hours later, Alina packed a knife, a flashlight, and the baby monitor. She left a note for Mia. "If I'm not back in 24 hours, find the cabin near Pinebrook Lake." She didn't wait. She drove, faster than she ever had before. The closer she got to the lake, the more her body remembered. Smells, sounds, fear. She hadn't thought about that summer in years. The one when her father disappeared during a storm. The one where her mother came back from the woods, covered in blood, and refused to speak for days. Alina had asked, back then, "Where's Daddy?" Her mother only whispered, "We don't talk about that place." She found the cabin just after midnight. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, darkness, until the monitor buzzed again. Another feed. This time it showed a room, candlelit, with writing on the walls, and in the center, a crib, the blue blanket inside it. But no baby. Then a voice, male, calm. "You took something from me, Alina," it said. "Now I'm taking it back." The screen went black, and from inside the cabin, a creak. Someone was upstairs. She didn't run this time. Alina stepped inside the cabin, every nerve in her body on fire. The wooden floor creaked beneath her, groaning like it remembered everything she'd forgotten. The door closed behind her on its own, with a soft click that sounded too deliberate. The silence was alive, breathing. She held her breath and looked around. Her flashlight cut across dust, cobwebs, and old furniture draped in white sheets. Everything felt frozen in time. She moved slowly, one step at a time, toward the staircase that spiraled up into darkness. Another creak above. Whoever was up there wanted her to follow, wanted her to remember. The baby monitor buzzed again. She looked down. The feed had returned. Danny's gripped the blue blanket, and now a sound. A soft lullaby playing in the background, off-key, mechanical. She knew that tune. Her father used to whistle it. When he thought she was asleep, her heart clenched. She climbed the stairs. Halfway up, she paused. There was a door at the top, open just enough to let a sliver of candlelight leak through. She pushed it. The room was empty, but it wasn't. The walls were covered in pages. Old journal entries taped up like wallpaper, scribbled drawings, notes, some with her name on them, some with Danny's. One photo stopped her cold. It was her, maybe 10 years old, sleeping. A man standing over her, the man from the video. She dropped the flashlight. In the silence that followed, a soft whisper cut through the room. "You were never supposed to leave." She turned. A man stood in the doorway. Older, gaunt, hair grey at the temples, but the eyes, those eyes burned with something unhinged. "Dad?" He smiled. A bitter, broken thing. "I waited. You forgot." But he remembered. My grandson remembered. Alina shook her head, trembling. "You died," Mom said. "She lied." He snapped. "She buried me in silence, thought she could erase me. But blood doesn't forget, Alina, not when it's broken." He stepped into the room, and she could smell the stale tobacco on his breath, the same scent that clung to the nursery window. "Where's my son?" she demanded. He laughed, low and guttural. "Safe, for now. I just wanted you to see it, what you left behind, what you never asked about, what you let happen." "I was a child," she said, tears burning her eyes. "You were the one who..." He stepped closer, face contorted. "I protected you." "No," she whispered. "You hurt us." The candlelight flickered as if agreeing. She remembered now. The summer at the lake, the storms, the screams in the night, her mother's bruises, her own dreams, waking up wet, terrified, not knowing why. Her mother had taken her and run, hidden, changed their names. But they hadn't run far enough. The man knelt near an old chest in the corner. "You want him back?" he asked softly. Alina said nothing. He opened the chest. Inside, a stuffed bear, Danny's, and a small speaker, the lullaby still playing, but no baby. She rushed forward, furious. "Where is he?" He stood calmly. "You'll find out if you survive." He shoved her hard, and she fell backward through the doorway. She hit the hallway floor with a crack and screamed as pain exploded up her spine. The door slammed shut behind her, locked. She pounded it. "Give him back, you sick bastard!" From inside, silence. Then the monitor buzzed again. New feed, basement camera, the blue blanket. On the ground, a baby's cry. She pushed herself up, every limb aching, and stumbled down the stairs. The basement door was behind the kitchen, half buried behind a rotted shelf. She tore it away and opened it. Cold air rose to meet her. Damp, moldy, heavy. The stairs were steep and narrow. She descended carefully, each footstep echoing louder than the last. At the bottom, a single bulb flickered. In the far corner, a crib. She ran to it. Blanket, bare, no baby. Then she heard it, behind. Her breathing. She turned slowly. The man again. But something was wrong. His face, it was bleeding from his eyes, his nose, his smile wider than it should be. He wasn't real, a projection, a memory, a hallucination. He stepped forward. She thought hiding you would protect you. But now look, at you, running back to where it all began. She backed away. You're dead. You died. He grinned. Maybe. But some places hold memories tighter than the grave. The light bulb popped. Darkness swallowed everything. She screamed and fumbled for her flashlight, flicked it on. The room was empty. The monitor buzzed. New video. This time it showed her holding the monitor in real time. She was being watched. From where? She spun around. There, a camera in the corner, blinking red. She ripped it from the wall. Then, footsteps above. Fast, heavy, not just one pair, two, maybe more. Someone else was here. She bolted up the stairs, kicking the door shut behind her, locked it. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message. Run. They're not with him. She didn't wait. She ran out of the cabin into the woods. Rain began to fall, cold and hard. Branches whipped her face. Mud clung to her bare feet. But she didn't stop. She reached the car, barely able to breathe, and threw herself inside, turned the key. Nothing. Battery dead. Her breath fogged the window. Another buzz. The monitor. New feed. Danny, crying, in a room with floral wallpaper. She knew that room. It was Mia's guest bedroom. He was at her sister's house. She called her straight to voicemail. No, no, no. She started running, mile after mile, through rain and mud until she hit the main road. A truck slowed. The driver, a woman, mid-50s, concerned. You all right? You're bleeding. My baby, Alina gasped. He's not safe. Please, Mia's house. I need to get in. The woman drove fast. Alina clutched the monitor the entire time, Danny's cries growing softer, more frantic. She reached the house just as lightning cracked the sky. The front door was open. She ran in. Mia! No answer. She raced up the stairs. Guest room door wide open. Danny, in the crib, crying, alive. She collapsed, scooped him up, sobbing. He was real, warm, breathing. She stood. No more running, no more waiting. It was time to flip the story. Using the coordinates from Lacey's last GPS ping, Alina and Morris traced the route to a remote compound deep in the Appalachian woods. Old military-grade fencing surrounded the area. Drones, silent guards. Morris gave her an earpiece and said, "We go in together. You're not alone this time." They snuck in under the cover of darkness. The inside of the compound was eerily familiar, a replica of her childhood. Home, every detail perfect. On a monitor in the center room, Lacey sat, drugged, watching old cartoons. Alina whispered, "Where is he?" Morris checked the cameras. "Northwest sector, there's movement." Alina nodded. "I'll go." "No," Morris said, grabbing her arm. "You don't have to do this alone." "I do," she said, pulling away. She walked down the corridor, and there he was. Not her father, but a mirror image. His hair white, his left hand mechanical, his smile exact. He turned. "I knew you'd come." Alina's hands curled into fists. "Where is my father?" The man grinned. "Which one?" She lunged, but he caught her mid-air, his hand surprisingly strong. "You were the best," he whispered, "but you still feel too much." "Good," Alina spat, "because that's what makes me human." She stabbed him, a small blade Morris had given her, just beneath the rib cage. He gasped, staggering. "You're not supposed to kill me." "No," she said, "but I'm not playing by the rules anymore." Morris arrived seconds later with backup. They rescued Lacey. They cleared the compound, but the twin, Daniel, was gone when they searched the lower levels. Blood trails, an empty escape tunnel, another game, another chapter. Back in the daylight, Alina stood with Danny, watching Lacey climb into a medic van. The girl gave her a look, wide-eyed, grateful, scared. Alina kneeled beside her. "He didn't win," she whispered. "You did." Lacey nodded. "But will he come back?" Alina looked toward the woods, then down at Danny. "If he does," she said, "I'll be ready." And this time the ending would be hers to write. The lake was frozen, a mirror of sky and silence. Alina stood at the edge, boots cracking the thin sheet of ice under her feet, the cold biting through her coat. The trees surrounding the water were naked, skeletal, and behind her, a black SUV idled quietly. Danny sat inside, fastened in the back seat, watching her through the fogged-up window with curious, tired eyes. It had been 7 months since they raided the compound and found Lacey. 7 months of silence from Daniel Hall. No sightings, no messages, no signs, but she never believed it was over. She'd been tracking anomalies, missing foster kids, encrypted chatter on dark net forums, financial records of phantom research groups, all leading here. A quiet town in Montana, a frozen lake no one swam in anymore, and beneath it, she was sure, lay the end of it all. Morris had tried to stop her. "We have no confirmation he's here," he said. But confirmation wasn't the point anymore. She didn't want to find Daniel. She wanted to bury him and everything he'd ever built, and the lake. The lake was where it all began. As a child, she remembered her father, or who she thought was her father, bringing her here once during a long winter. She hadn't realized until recently that this was the location of Project Eden's original site, before the cabin, before the experiments, before her life had been twisted into a weapon. She took a breath and turned back to the SUV. "Are you okay?" she asked Danny as she opened the door. He nodded. "Are we going to see him?" "No," she said softly. "Not today." He leaned closer. "But I saw him in my dream." Alina froze. Danny's eyes were clear, but there was something behind them. Something old, something too knowing for a 6-year-old. "He told me the lake remembers." He whispered. "And he said you wouldn't stop it." Alina reached for his hand. "He's wrong." Danny's voice dropped. "He said he's under it." She swallowed. That was the last clue she needed. By noon, she and Morris stood on the frozen surface in full gear. Beneath the ice, sonar had confirmed an unnatural void about 15 feet down. A bunker, maybe even a lab. Sealed shut for decades. "We'll blow it," Morris said. "Seal it for good." "No," Alina said. "I'm going in." Morris looked at her like she was insane. "You go down there, you might not come back." Alina clipped on the harness, already lowering herself toward the opening they'd carved. "If I don't, he will." The water was like knives. Darkness swallowed her whole. But down there, she felt it. The hum of machines still working, the metal corridor untouched by time. She swam through the hatch and entered a frozen crypt of the past. Inside, old project files floated in vacuum-sealed containers, names, photos, videos, rows of cryo chambers lined the walls, most empty. One still held something. She swam closer. Inside was a man, aged, alive, hooked up to machines, frozen in a coma. Daniel Hall, or perhaps the real father. She couldn't tell anymore. She stared at the man, her breath catching in her mask. Memories flooded back, the lullabies he sang that were never comforting. The cold hands on her shoulder at night, the voice that told her to stop crying. That pain was just weakness leaving the body, and in that moment something broke inside her. But not in the way he had wanted. She pulled the mask off his face. His eyes fluttered open. For a split second, he looked surprised. And then Alina mouthed 3 words. "It ends now." She pulled the ignition cord on the explosive she had carried. In her vest, then she swam up fast, heart pounding. The detonation rocked the lake like thunder. Morris dragged her out just before the water erupted in fire and ice. Steam shot into the air. Birds scattered. The frozen lake became boiling ruin, and Daniel Hall, whatever version of him had survived, was gone. for good. Back in the motel that night, Alina held Danny as he slept beside her. His body was warm, his breathing calm. He would never be a weapon, never be another subject in someone else's twisted plan. She had made sure of that. Morris knocked gently and entered. "They'll name it classified," he said. "Pretend it was an earthquake." "I don't care," Alina replied. "Just let it stay buried." He nodded and handed her a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Your new name, new ID, new life. Canada if you want it. Remote town, good schools, quiet snow." She took the envelope. For the first time in years, her hands didn't shake. "You're not coming with us, are you?" she asked. Morris shook his head. "This was your war. I was just the guy with the map." She stood and hugged him. "Thank you." He looked down at Danny. "Take care of him. You're the only chance he has." "No," Alina said softly. "He's the only chance I have." 3 months later, Alina stood outside a schoolhouse in British Columbia, watching Danny laugh with 2 other kids on the playground. He was wearing a red coat and snow boots, his breath forming little clouds as he ran. Her heart ached, not with pain, but with something close to peace. A teacher approached. "He's doing really well. Talks a lot about nature and dreams." Alina nodded. "He's always dreaming." That night, Danny drew something at the kitchen table, a picture of a tree by a lake and a broken house beneath the water. Alina knelt beside him. "What's this?" He shrugged. "A memory I don't remember." She kissed the top of his head. "Some memories," she whispered, "are better left forgotten." But she knew the truth. You don't escape horror by erasing it. You overcome it by surviving, and they had survived. That was the ending no one ever told her was possible. But now, it was hers. The end. But then, a voice behind her, "Mia, I tried to warn you." Alina turned, shaking. "Warn me?" Mia's face was pale, her eyes swollen. "He came to me last week, said he was our father. I didn't believe it, but he showed me things. Photos. Letters. Said you were hiding something." "What are you talking about?" "He said you lied, that you knew he was alive." Alina stared at her. "You believed him?" Mia started crying. "I didn't know what to believe, but I told him where you lived, where Danny slept. I thought he just wanted to talk." Alina's knees went weak. "You told him where we lived," she whispered. Mia covered her mouth, guilt choking her. Alina stepped forward, still holding Danny. "You gave my son to a monster." "I didn't know." "Yes, you did." Lightning, and flashed again. Somewhere outside, a car engine started. They both froze. The monitor buzzed once more. Final message. "It's not over. Blood always finds blood." And just like that, the feed cut to black. "You said no, write part 3, and part 3 will be maximum 2,000 words. Without heading, ChatGPT said, "Rain poured harder now, slamming against the windows of Mia's house like fists trying to break through." Alina held Danny tighter, her heart a drumbeat of rage and fear. The room felt smaller, suffocating, like the walls knew what Mia had done. Mia stood frozen, guilt turning her skin pale. "I swear, Alina, I thought he was just trying to reconnect. I didn't think he'd—" "You didn't think," Alina snapped. "You never do. You handed my baby over to a man we watched our mother bury." "I didn't hand him over," Mia whispered, shaking. "He tricked me. He said he was dying. He said he just wanted to meet his grandson." Alina didn't care. Not now. Danny was safe, for the moment, but the damage was done. Her father was alive and more dangerous than ever, and someone else had been in that cabin. She hadn't imagined those footsteps. He wasn't working alone. She walked out of the room, past Mia, down the stairs with Danny against her chest. "We're leaving." Mia followed. "Where will you go?" "Somewhere he can't find us." "There's nowhere he can't reach," Mia said softly. "He knows everything about us." Alina turned sharply. "You think I don't know that?" but I'll die before I let him touch my son again. She strapped Danny into the car seat, her hands shaking with urgency. Before starting the engine, she stared at the baby monitor again. The feed was still black. She reached for her phone, ready to destroy the app. But a message appeared just as her thumb hovered over the screen. He's not the only one looking for you. No number, no name, just those words. She glanced at Mia. Did you give anyone else our address? Mia shook her head. I swear. Alina didn't believe her. She drove without a destination, away from the city, toward the hills, toward silence. Danny eventually fell asleep in the back, but Alina didn't relax. She kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting her father's car to appear in the distance. 3 hours passed. The rain slowed to a drizzle. She pulled into an abandoned rest stop near the edge of a small town she didn't recognize. There was a motel across the street, one flickering neon sign, vacancy. She carried Danny into the front office. An old man sat behind the counter, watching something on a tiny black and white TV. He looked up. One room? Alina nodded. Cash. Only? He muttered. She handed him $100 bill. No questions, no names. Inside the room, she locked every bolt and leaned a chair against the door. She laid Danny down on the bed and collapsed beside him, too tired to cry, too scared to sleep. But sleep took her anyway. She woke to a noise. 3 soft knocks at the window. She sat up, blood rushing to her ears. Another knock. Slower this time. She crept to the window and looked through the curtain. Nothing, just an empty parking lot. Then her phone buzzed again. Check under the bed. Her heart dropped. She turned around slowly, her stomach twisting. Danny still slept peacefully. She crouched down, pulled the bed skirt up. There was nothing. No. Wait. A single envelope. Yellowed, torn at the edges. She grabbed it, stood up, and opened it with trembling fingers. Inside, a photo of her mother, but not how Alina remembered her. In this photo, she looked terrified, crying, her face swollen, bruised, a date scrawled in red ink on the bottom, August 13th, 1999. That was the night her father disappeared. There was another photo. This time, it was her mother, holding a shotgun. Standing outside the cabin, and behind her on the ground was a man, bloody, barely breathing. He looked like her father. A third photo. This one nearly made Alina drop the envelope. It was her, as a little girl, holding the shotgun, her hands over her ears, eyes wide with horror. She had no memory of that, none. She sat down hard on the bed. What had she forgotten? What had her mother made her forget? And then her phone buzzed again. You don't remember, but you were there. You helped her bury him. No, Alina whispered she couldn't have. She was a child, she didn't. She looked at Danny, sleeping peacefully, innocent, and she realized something terrible. If her father had survived being shot, if he'd crawled away and hidden all these years, he'd had time to plan, time to watch, to wait, and to build something darker. A knock at the motel room door snapped her attention back, not the window. The door, hard, deliberate. She froze. Another knock, then a voice. Low, calm. Alina, open the door. It's me. Alina's blood turned to ice. She hadn't told Mia where she was, hadn't spoken to her since leaving the house. Mia, she called out, inching toward the door. Yeah, please, just let me explain. Alina didn't move. She looked through. The peephole. It was Mia, same clothes, wet from the rain, makeup smudged, but something was wrong. Her eyes, they looked empty. Mia, how did you find me? There was a pause. Does it matter? The voice asked. Wrong answer, Mia wouldn't say. At that, Alina stepped back. You're not her. The thing on the other side of the door laughed. Low and slow, then silence. She waited frozen. A shadow moved away from the door. She grabbed Danny and rushed to the bathroom, locking the door behind her. Her hands fumbled for her phone. She called 911, static. Then a voice, a woman, but not a dispatcher. This won't end the way you think. Alina dropped the phone. The bathroom light flickered. Danny stirred in her arms. She rocked him, whispered, begged him to stay quiet. Footsteps creaked outside the door, and then another buzz from the monitor. She looked down. The feed was back. Danny sleeping, but not in her arms. She looked down again. She was holding a stuffed bear. No baby, she screamed. The bathroom door flung open. Mia, but this time, really Mia, her eyes wide with terror. Alina, what the hell? You just vanished. I tracked your phone. I've been calling you. Alina stared at her, still holding the bear. Her voice cracked. Where's my son? Mia looked at the bear, then at the monitor. Her face went white. Oh my God. And from behind them, from the motel room, a baby's cry. Faint, but not from the monitor, from the wall. Inside it, Alina dropped the bear and ran back into the room. The cry was louder now, desperate. She pressed her ear to the wall behind the bed. Danny! She could hear him, muffled, real. She backed up and kicked the wall again and again, splintering wood and drywall, until it caved in, a small compartment, a hidden panel. Inside, Danny, wrapped in the blue blanket. Alina pulled him out, shaking with relief. He was warm, alive, crying. Mia was sobbing behind her. How is this even possible? She asked. Alina didn't answer. She looked around the room. The photos, the monitor, the bear, the voice on the phone. This wasn't a motel. It was a trap, set by someone who knew her history, her memories, her fears. This whole place had been built to a breaker, and now her son was back in her arms. But something else was just beginning, because as she turned to leave, the TV flickered on by itself, and there he was, her father, looking straight into the camera. You passed the first test, he said calmly. Let's see how far a mother will go. Alina didn't blink, didn't breathe. The TV screen glowed in the dim motel room, her father's face staring back with a calmness that chilled her bones. Danny whimpered softly in her arms, his little fingers curling around her shirt like he was trying to hold her together. Mia stood, frozen by the door, her mouth open, but no sound coming out. Did you see that? She whispered. Alina nodded slowly. I think, she said, voice dry, he wants us to play. She wrapped Danny tighter and bolted for the door. Mia followed, nearly tripping over the broken panel in the wall. The motel parking lot was dead. Quiet, empty, like it had never been used. No cars, no staff, no sign of life. They didn't stop running until they reached the woods behind the motel. Trees clawed at their clothes, branches scraped across Alina's skin, but she didn't care. She just ran, her heart pounding, her brain screaming that something still wasn't right. Where are we going? Mia gasped behind her. Anywhere. He didn't build. Alina spat. After 20 minutes, they came upon a clearing, then a quiet cabin at the edge of a riverbank. The door was unlocked. No cameras, no lights, no signs of him. Inside, Alina finally set Danny down and sank to the floor, panting. Mia crouched beside her, shaking. He's alive. He's out there, and he's watching everything. Alina stared ahead. No, he's not just watching. He's testing me. Mia frowned. Testing you for what? Alina blinked at her, remembering something that had never made sense until now. Before he disappeared when I was 7, he used to whisper things to me at night, like bedtime stories, but darker. He said one day I'd have to make a choice. That pain makes you strong. That fear is a friend if you let it in. Mia recoiled. That's sick. He said the world would take everything from me unless I proved I was willing to take it back. She looked at Danny now, his innocent eyes blinking up at her. I never understood it. I thought it was just madness. But now, I think he's trying to finish the story. That night, Alina dreamt of her mother, standing in that old cabin with the shotgun again. But this time, her mother looked at her and said, "I didn't kill him to protect you. I killed him because I saw what you would become if he stayed." Alina woke up screaming. Mia rushed over. "It's okay, you're okay." But Alina wasn't. Her phone buzzed. No signal, no Wi-Fi, but a new video downloaded on its own. She hesitated, then hit play. The screen flickered, showing footage from years ago. Home videos, Danny's birth, his first steps, his first fall, then static. Then Alina, sitting in her old bedroom, crying, rocking back and forth, whispering, "He's gone. He's gone, he's gone." The screen cut to her father in present day, staring into the lens again. "You remember that day?" he said gently. "The day I died. Do you remember why your mother buried me without a funeral? Why the neighbors were never told?" Alina froze. "Because I wasn't the one hurting you," he said. "She was." Mia gasped behind her. "That's a lie." But Alina's mind was already spinning. A faint, long-forgotten memory surfaced. Her mother screaming, her hiding under the stairs, blood on her nightgown. Not from a nosebleed like she was told. Her mother's eyes wild, her father trying to calm her, arms out, the shotgun, then silence, then dirt. Had she buried the wrong monster? Alina stood up fast. "We're leaving. I need answers. I need to go back to the cabin." Mia grabbed her wrist. "Are you insane? That's exactly what he wants." "No, he wants me to be afraid. And I'm done being afraid." They left just before dawn, Danny strapped tightly to Alina's chest. The roads were slick with fog, the forest too quiet. They reached the old cabin by noon. Time hadn't been kind to it. The roof sagged, the walls were covered in ivy, but the front door was still intact. Still familiar, Alina stepped inside, every nerve in her body screaming. The smell hit her first, earth and rot and something older. The living room was just how she remembered. Faded couch, fireplace, old clock ticking that shouldn't still work. She walked to the back, past the kitchen, to the trapdoor under the rug, the one place her mother had told her never to open. Mia looked terrified. "What's down there?" Alina opened it. Stairs, darkness, cold. She turned on her flashlight and descended. The basement was filled with boxes, old tapes, files, her father's journals. She opened one, read, "Alina shows signs of strength, detachment, but emotional suppression may lead to fragmentation later. I must intervene early." Another page. Karen, Alina's mother, refuses to see it. She thinks gentleness is the answer, but the world does not reward softness. She's coddling her, weakening her. Another page. Test number 1 failed. The dog incident revealed too much empathy. Must create separation from attachments. Only through trauma can she evolve. Alina's breath caught. He had been experimenting on her, engineering her pain, every loss, every fear, every heartbreak, planned, not random, designed. She turned and saw another tape labeled Final Trial. She inserted it into the old VHS player in the corner. The screen buzzed on. Her father again, this time sitting in a chair across from someone, tied up. Her mother, eyes swollen shut, lips cracked. "This is where the lie ends," he said into the camera. "You must choose, Alina, forgiveness or freedom." He turned the camera, and Alina could now see a knife between them. Her mother whispered, "Don't listen. He's trying to break you." The video cut off. Mia was crying now. He tortured her. He set her up to look like the villain. But Alina wasn't crying. She was quiet. Something inside her had shifted. She reached for the last journal, read the final line. If she refuses the trial, she dies who she was. If she embraces it, she becomes who she was meant to be. She closed the book. "No more trials," she whispered. That night, she burned the cabin, the journals, the tapes, the truth, all of it. Mia tried to stop her. "You're destroying evidence." "No," Alina said, "I'm destroying control." And as the fire consumed the past, Alina finally understood. Her father was never trying to kill her. He was trying to create her. But she wasn't his project anymore. She was her own. When the flames died and the ashes cooled, Alina stood taller. Not because the pain was gone, but because it no longer owned her. She took Danny's tiny hand and whispered, "This ends with me." And for the first time, her son smiled. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and old ghosts. Alina sat in the waiting room with Danny asleep in her lap, the thin hospital blanket pulled over his shoulders. Her clothes still smelled faintly of smoke from the cabin fire 2 nights ago. She hadn't slept since. Not really. The nightmares weren't just dreams anymore. They were instructions. Mia had gone to the front desk to speak to someone, anyone, about temporary housing. After the fire, they had nothing. No money, no IDs, just the baby, a dead phone, and a memory card filled with horrors no one would believe. Alina tapped the memory card against her thigh. She could turn it in, show the police, prove what he did. But what would that change? The world hadn't protected her before. It hadn't saved her mother. It wouldn't save her now. A nurse appeared. "Ms. Hall, you have a visitor." Alina's stomach turned cold. "I didn't call anyone." The nurse hesitated. "He said you'd say that, but he knew your name and your father's." Alina stood carefully, laying Danny down on the bench, then followed the nurse down a long white hallway until they reached a private room. The man inside looked up as she entered. Grey suit, bald, mid-60s, a badge peeking from his jacket pocket. "Ms. Hall," he said calmly, "I've been looking for you for quite some time." She stayed by the door. "Who are you?" "Agent Morris, Federal Intelligence Division. Your father used to work for us." A pause. "Until he didn't." Alina blinked. "He was military?" "Technically, but more than that." The agent stood and pulled a folder from his bag. He slid it across the table. "Your father was involved in a classified behavioral experiment, funded privately, but run through a shell program that once belonged to us." She opened the folder slowly. Photos, tapes, psychological reports. One stood out. A file labeled Project Eden, she read aloud. "Target subjects, children of trauma. Objective, generate resilience and emotional detachment through forced environmental conditioning." Alina's breath hitched. "He used me for this." The agent nodded slowly. "You were one of the last. After your mother disappeared, the project was terminated, at least officially. Your father took his work underground." Alina clenched her fists. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you're not the only one." He pulled another folder. "There are others, still active, still being used, and your father might be trying to rebuild it." She laughed bitterly. "He's dead. I watched him die as a kid, and I buried him with my mother's shaking hands." The agent slid her a photo, a security feed still frame, dated 4 days ago. Her father, alive, standing outside a children's foster center in Ohio, watching. "Why? Are you showing me this?" she whispered. "Because you're the only one who survived him, the only one who knows how he thinks." He paused. "And because I believe he's looking for Danny." Alina's stomach dropped. "Why would he?" "Because he sees Danny as the next version, the one you didn't become." Alina stood, trembling. "I'm done playing his games." Morris didn't move. "You don't have to play, but you have to stop him, or this doesn't end." Later that night, in a cheap shelter room with flickering lights, Alina stared at the memory card. Mia was asleep on the cot. Danny curled up beside her, peaceful. Alina scrolled through the footage again, but now she watched it differently. Not with horror, with strategy. Every message, every test, every sick manipulation, it all had patterns. She began to write, A map, a theory, places he'd hinted at, voices he never showed but mentioned. If she could predict his next move, she could find him, she could end it, but she couldn't do it alone. The next day, Alina called the number Agent Morris had left. "I'll do it," she said, "but I don't want to be your asset. I want to be your partner." There was silence, then a soft, "Understood." A plan began to form. Morris provided her with access to a database of unsolved child disappearances, matching the Project Eden profile. Young, emotionally fragile, usually from broken homes, all within 2 states. One case caught her attention. Girl named Lacey, 12, missing from a foster home just 3 days ago. Security footage showed her being picked up by a man matching her father's height and build, but with a prosthetic left hand, something her father didn't have when she was a child. Alina zoomed in, stared at the man's face. It wasn't her father, not quite, but it was his twin. She dropped the tablet. Twin? There had never been any mention of a brother. She dialed Morris. "You said my father was running the project alone. Were you wrong?" He sighed. "There were rumors. Early records list a Daniel Hall, same date of birth, identical DNA, but no one ever confirmed his existence." Alina remembered something her mother once said, whispered during a stormy night when Alina was 9, curled under the blankets. "He's not who you think he is. The real one died in the war. The one who came back, he was colder, like he'd been replaced." Maybe she wasn't just speaking metaphorically. Maybe she had meant it literally. Back at the shelter, Alina looked at Danny, suddenly seeing his face differently. What if this was always the plan? Not to hurt her, but to use her to breed the next subject, a perfect child of trauma and intelligence. And now they were coming to take him. No,